A very warm welcome to all of you. You are welcome in News9 Mediaverse and you are watching To The Point. Chief Minister Brijesh Singh has convened a single-day assembly session on the 29th of August, that is tomorrow. Unfortunately, violence erupted in Imphal Valley just 48 hours before the important session. 3 houses were burnt and protesters also targeted the police. Guns were snatched away. Congress is also against the one-day session. Now let me come to the point. Why is Congress opposed to the session? What is the issue? But even before the politics can start, as I am telling you, violence was to be seen in the Imphal Valley. I am playing out the visuals for you. These are the visuals which came from the Imphal Valley. The question is, what is the political economy of the burning? Is a community being targeted? Why are empty houses being burned? Is it a signal to a community not to return to Imphal? So let me come to the point and let me play out the bites of Brijesh Singh, the former Chief Minister of Manipur.
We request at least minimum 5 days should be time allocation should be. But they said that because of this present prevailing situation, we will sit only one day. Then what we'll discuss there only one day. There is obituary references there. Normally if there is obituary references there, the other business could not be taken up. Therefore, I request, I appeal, I suggest that at least minimum 5 days, but they are not accept. Therefore, I have given a clear decision note. One day session is not in the interest of the public.
As per rule, the summoning of the session, this notice should be given for 15 days time to the members. But that is not there, the summoning of this notice. So this is beyond the rules. And again, these members are not getting for this questioning, like star question and unstar question. That too, these members should get minimum 10 clear days. So there will be no chance for questioning. These members will not get, in short, the chance to raise up questions in connection with the present violence and the different incidents which had happened in connection with the present violence.
So now let me play out the entire visuals for you which came from Imphal. I want them visuals on the screen, completely. On the screen. This is what has happened in Imphal. These are the visuals. Houses were burnt. Whose houses are being burnt? Why are empty houses being burnt? How can someone just organize, miscreants can organize themselves despite such huge deployment of paramilitary in the valley and burn these houses? And this is when the session is supposed to take place. This is when Brijesh Singh in an interview to ANI, in his bite categorically said that we will provide security to the MLAs who want to come in and become part of the session. So if you cannot provide security to the empty houses or prevent empty houses being burned, how are the people who are supposed to come and become part of the session, join and participate, will they ever trust you? Let me come to the point. Brijesh, 2 things. One, why are empty houses being targeted and burnt in Imphal?
I think one of the key thing is send a message that that you are not welcome here. And if empty houses are burned, A, they are easy targets. B, if a particular ethnicity is targeted, you just not only force him away from your area of dominance, either which way, whether it's valley or hill or whichever way it is, and also ensure that he doesn't have anything to come back to. And that is one of the key reasons why I think these empty houses are targeted, and it's extremely unfortunate. As we have been witnessing this senseless violence which has been going on and you can again see that role of the women. We have discussed several times how she's openly challenging the security forces that if you want to shoot, you have to shoot at me. It's extremely unfortunate, and two people wanted to enter the locality, people wanted to get there, and the police has to open fire to disperse them to ensure that that the situation doesn't spiral out of control. So all the talks of violence being under control and all, I think the sporadic violence
And
keeps
48 hours before the assembly session?
Well, yes, of course it is unfortunate because it flies in the face of the assurance which has been given by Chief Minister N. Biren Singh that everything is normal or normalcy is returning because incidents like these clearly put pace to the statement which has been made by Chief Minister or other security establishment. And I think, there has to be a crackdown, Kartikeya, and this is something which we have discussed several times. There has to be crackdown on people, whosoever is holding or taking law in its own hand. And unless that crackdown takes place, Kartikeya, I honestly don't think that the situation will return to a level where you don't see violence for a longer duration of time.
Okay, I'm also being joined by Mr. Hijang Misao, social activist. I'm also joined by Geeta Raniji, advocate, Manipur High Court, and also Suhas Chakmaji, Director, Rights and Risk Analysis. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Misao. What is happening in Imphal a day before the assembly session? Mr. Misao, can you please, yes, go on. What is happening?
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Yes, Kartikeya, when the 10 MLAs, the Kuki-Zo 10 MLAs says the valley of death, because Imphal Valley has become a valley of death, the entire world hardly believe it. And today we have seen the stark reality that is happening in Imphal Valley. Now, in spite, as you rightly mentioned, in spite of the high security deployment in the Imphal Valley, houses are being burned down. Now, you were saying there were more than 3 houses of the Kuki community burned down. And forget about that one, the ex-MP of Manipur, Uthamso Baike, his house in Lamphel Park was also burned down just days before. And at the same time, imagine in such kind of situation when the security fail to provide security and safety to the buildings, how would they provide security to the Kuki-Zo MLAs, whom they expect them to be present in the assembly? Now, I'm going to tell you, we don't want to be separated from Manipur. The Kuki never wants to be separated from Manipur because since time immemorial, our forefather contributed a lot towards Manipur's cause, Manipur welfare. But I'm going to tell you very honestly and truthfully, we are forced to separate from Manipur. Now, when we said we are forced, everything was well planned, well engineered, and well orchestrated. And I have already said in the last talk show how the sequences of events are taking place just before the outbreak of this violence on 3rd May. I have already said the gun license were collected from the Kuki dominated area, and the Armed Forces Special Power Act was removed from the valley area, and also like the houses, the quarters, the churches of Kuki community were marked with colors. And when the outbreak happens, the houses of the Kuki community were selectively targeted. And then imagine the Manipur University, the university which has to be protected, safe, and which is also known as the place of learning itself was targeted when the rooms of the Kuki girls and boys were selectively targeted, and those hostelers who are in the hostel are pulled out and beaten. So now the whole sequences of events, look at that. And now, even in spite of that, when Chief Minister N. Biren Singh assure and even tell the world that there is normalcy already, I think he must stop lying to the world. Now, he couldn't even control the Meitei community in spite of high security deployment. How do he expect our Kuki MLAs to come and attend the assembly? At the same time, as the Congress party was rightly saying, what would you do in just one day? We must be serious in democracy. Democracy, there should be enough space, enough time to air your grievances. In just one day, what are you going to do? Are you trying to simply trying to hook words to the entire world, saying that normalcy has come back, assembly is being convened, and then assembly is going? I think that will never work. It's high time that the government takes serious, and at the same time, since I have already rightly said, we are forced to separate. We are kicked out from the valley. So for us, there's no option, there's no choice. And when we are saying separate administration, I would tell you very straightforward. When we are saying separate administration, we are trying to save India from secessionists. Remember, there are high number of secessionists from the valley who are trying to break away from India. When we are saying separate administration,
okay. Can I go to Geeta Rani ji,
rather than trying to save
okay,
India.
That's a long introduction. Geeta Rani ji, to you, then I'll go to Chakma ji. Two things. Houses are still being targeted. Biren Singh says, we'll bring law and order under control. And what is this farce of a one day of a session? It's just like doing the necessity, the constitutional obligation for the assembly to meet for a requisite period of time. Two questions to you, Geeta Rani ji. What explains this violence in which houses are marked? Marked violence, you target someone.
See, Kartikeya, I would request all media not to actually assume that the houses were burned by Meiteis, because these are miscreants who do not want a peaceful atmosphere in valley to persist, who has actually performed this act. And those ladies whom you are showing in the screen, what they are screaming is, they are telling CRPF are guarding these houses, how come it burned? Because I believe 5 houses were burned in total, and out of that 2 houses were belonging to Meiteis, because these are tightly packed. And these ladies, they are not saying like, blaming the cookies or something like that. They are just asking if these are very highly protected security area.
Okay, let me get to point taken, Geeta Rani ji. Let me rephrase the question. Why were these houses burned? In your opinion, who burned these houses? And what is the political economy of burning empty houses? I'll rephrase myself.
Yes, it's very unfortunate that every time houses, people's whole life are destroyed by burning these houses. And according to me, these houses are burned by people to build a narrative that peace has not returned to Imphal. That, miscreants trying to create that impression that holding of assembly, session during this time is not warranted because peace is not prevailing. And like Mr. Misha, he started with saying, we do not want to separate from Manipur, which was very heartening to hear. But later on, he ended with, we were forced to because of certain circumstances and all that. But those, again, I'll reiterate here, the events which happened in Imphal, those violent acts were retaliation. The timing itself short. Anyway, keeping that apart, I think investigation is going on. So ultimately, the truth, the sequence of event will come out. So for me, it's very clear that this firing of the houses, it was done by miscreants who do not want peace to return and who do not want the assembly session to be held. Having said that, having the assembly session for just one day, I think is not going to bring much effect, because the Congress leader saying like time will be taken for obituaries and all that procedures. It's true. One day will not be enough for having question and answer sessions and bringing things out in the light. So ideally, it should have.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. Suhasji, what is the logic of a one-day assembly session? I just don't get it. You're in a state where people need to come and talk and people need to have a conversation on what has happened. People need to record their things. You have a one-day session. Do you think this session is just formality?
No, it's not a question of formality. It's a clear way of and Biren Singh telling Home Minister that I'm still in control of the situation. And once this session takes place, of course, the first thing which the BJP MLAs would have done is to express their confidence in the Chief Minister. And Chief Minister is under tremendous amount of pressure because of the fact that, center's interlocutor, Mr. Isha ji has been holding talks with the Kuki groups, those who are in suspension of operations, and there are talks about some kind of formulation to resolve their long-standing demands, whether it's a separate administration or a strengthening of the Hill Councils. So if you look at the words which are emanating from the Ministry of Home Affairs, it is as if the Kukis are going to get a greater autonomy, possibly some sort of separate administration. But on the other hand, if you look at N. Biren Singh, he is saying that we are ready to look into the empowerment of the Hill Council, and I am not going to allow separation of the territories of Manipur. So how do you
My
convey
sources
your
tell me,
stand?
Suhasji, that he is not ready even for the 6th schedule, he is only ready for the 5th schedule. I checked the newspaper story.
No, whatever the schedule are, what is clear is that the Ministry of Home Affairs, which is run by the BJP, and Chief Minister Biren Singh are not on the same page.
Why do you say
and
that?
Of course,
Are you saying that Amit Shah and Biren Singh are not on the same page?
no, not absolutely not on the issue of granting autonomy to the cookies. They are not on the same page, and that's why there are stories which are also published in the Wire saying that on 6th of May there were possibilities of the agreement being signed between those who are in suspension of operations and the Ministry of Home Affairs, which and Biren Singh himself did not agree. So at least on the issue of granting autonomy to the hill areas, and not necessarily the Nagas, because Nagas are completely different issues. So I think what you have at present is, the historic problems which have been there for the last 75 years. And prior to that, the British didn't deal with these issues. See, if you look at the British administration, and if you look at the Government of India Act of 1921 as well as 1935, the British had not dealt with certain territories which were ruled or inhabited by the tribal population. So they had created partially excluded areas which went to become the 5th schedule areas. They dealt with the fully excluded areas which became the 6th schedule areas. So British had a sorry.
Take your time, Mr. Chakma, take your time. Mr. Misao, I don't think this session is going to be a success with the Kuki-Zo community not being there, the MLAs.
Kartikeya, it's about respect for one's titles, one's positions, and one's dignity. Now, when you are calling such assembly in the midst of such situation, you are not respecting the sentiments of the others. When you are not respecting the sentiments of others, I think peace will never prevail. Now, and Biren Singh, who is hell-bent, I would reach out to all the Meitei community. I have lots of friends, and I highly respect and regarded Meitei community because of their intellectual galaxy. At the same time, their advancement in all sectors. Now, I'm wondering how comes this such highly intellectual community who also conquer the world through sports and many other is now falling prey. At the same time, also falling on the trap of such kind of like devilish design by the so-called one particular man who has done nothing but break away Manipur. So in such situation, if when you are not respecting somebody's sentiments, somebody's freedoms, then you are not intending to bring goods, but you are intending to aggravate the situation. Also at the same time, further alienate, at the same time deepen the divides. Therefore, the assembly without the presence of the Kuki MLAs, it will serve no purpose. At the same time, it has no meaning at all because you are not respecting. The numbers might be less, You might be 40, we might be 10. But if you go by that numbers, then the emotional alienation, the disintegration of the peoples and the sentiment will be further deepens.
I think that's an important point. That's an important point. Brijesh, what is the relevance of this assembly session which is going to take place if you don't have the other community? You know, you have this whole bite of the territorial integrity of Manipur will not be compromised. But then a certain section just doesn't want to come. I mean to say the assembly is in Imphal. It's not as if assembly has moved outside and gone to Churachandpur. Assembly is going to stay where assembly has been built. So people need to come to Imphal, lawmakers need to come to Imphal, or the engagement has to be such that they are brought to Imphal. Neither they are in Imphal nor the other political parties are happy about it. So what is going to be there? Are people going to come and sign and leave?
I think it is to do more with the constitutional propriety than to arrive at any meaningful situation.
Constitutional obligation.
Constitutional obligation. So that is the reason why this one day thing is being called. Otherwise, what I would say is like, because in our shows most of the people are from both ethnicity, come
Correct.
represent them, and if you go by what they say, I mean, it seems that all hope is not lost. But the fact of the matter is that there has to be an outreach by the Chief Minister. I think there has to be outreach from both sides, where at least the lawmakers should feel confident to come to Imphal and carry on or press for their demands or what. How to get out of this internecine violence which is plaguing Manipur for more than 120 days now. It is extremely disheartening, but unfortunately there has been no concrete measures taken till now which can bring some sort of rapprochement between the two ethnicity, and that is extremely sorry state of affairs, Kartikeya, because I agree with Geeta Rani ji that there are miscreants, there are always that element in the society who would want to indulge in these kind of events, burn houses or do something which will further flare up and inflame passion in the society, which is definitely not good as far as Manipur is concerned.
I think the biggest failure is inability to hold a proper session, Geeta Rani ji. I leave aside this story of what is happening on the street, street protest, burning of the houses, other things. Security forces are there, but at least the politicians should be able to organize the house. Congress is saying that this is unconstitutional. They have gone hammer and tong against it.
Kartikeya, I do agree that holding this session is mostly to abide by the constitutional provision, because I think the 2nd September will be the last day for the 6 months to lapse. So that is there. But even like the situation right now, even if the assembly is held for 4 to 5 days, we don't expect the Kuki militants, Kuki MLAs to be coming and joining the session, because as I said earlier, their demand for separate administration does not agree with them coming and joining the session. Even though security is provided, let's say helicopter services provided for them to be ferried from wherever they are staying to Imphal for the assembly session, they will not be coming to join. So expecting all the 10 MLAs to, Kuki MLAs to, or at least the 7 BJP MLAs to come and join will not be practicable at this situation right now. And I believe, I don't know, I'm not sure about the Naga MLAs, but if the all the remaining MLAs come and join and have this session, the constitutional provision requirement of 6 months, within 6 months holding the assembly will be that will be kept. I think that is the it is apparent that would be the main reason why this session has been held.
Okay. Before I go on to the second part of the debate, let us play out the bite of Ebobi Singh once again, those who have joined us.
We request at least minimum 5 days should be time allocation should be. But they said that because of this present prevailing situation, we will sit only 1 day. Then what we'll discuss there only 1 day. There is obituary references there. Normally, if there is obituary references there, the other business could not be taken up. Therefore, I request, I appeal, I suggest that at least minimum 5 days, but they are not accept. Therefore, I have given my a clear decision note. 1 day session is not in the interest of the public.
Okay. Suhas Chakma ji is back. Suhas ji, am I audible to you?
Yes, please.
Please complete your argument when you are saying that both Biren Singh and Home Ministry are not on the same page.
No, what I was saying is that on the issue of autonomy, the Home Ministry was closer or had been closer to an agreement with the Kuki groups who have been in suspension of operation. But that is not something which has been accepted by Biren Singh. That's prior to the riots. And even now, when there are talks which have been held for a long period of time by the interlocutor Akamisha, the position of the Chief Minister of Manipur is different from the Home Minister. So what I was saying is that they are dealing with a situation which they are not fully able to comprehend. And they are not learning from the experience of the British. And what I was saying that, when the British dealt with the tribal populations in this subcontinent, if we look at the 1921 Government of India Act and 1935 Government of India Act, we would see that the British government itself did not engage with the tribal groups because it led to this kind of basically conflict. So that's why they have created at the point of time partially excluded areas which we turned into 5th schedule areas after independence under the constitution, and fully excluded areas which became the 6th schedule areas under the constitution. So you have given up the policy of non-interference in some of the affairs of the tribal communities, and now you come and deal with the situation. You actually do not know how to deal with it. Put aside the constitutional requirement, etc. I think at this point of time, BJP as a political party doesn't exist in Manipur. Otherwise, if BJP had issued the whip, then all the Kuki MLAs would have come. So it basically means that BJP as a political entity has no existence in Manipur, because the MLAs, whether you are a Kuki, whether you are a Meite or a Naga, are identifying themselves based on ethnicity. And even if you are to be able to provide security, as previous speaker, the lady had mentioned, is it not possible for the Government of India to provide security, full-fledged security for 10 MLAs? It is very easy. You provide a contingent of security forces, nobody able to reach there. But that is not the issue. The issue is tied to the political demands of each community, and the life of any MLA going out of the community line is at risk. So if you are a Meite, if you are going to support any kind of autonomy.
That's a very important point.
Yeah, autonomy to the Kukis, they cannot roam around. If the Kukis come, and participate and listen to the dictate of the BJP, they will be killed once they go back. So we have to understand that we have created the situation which, I am sorry to say, the people in the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Home Minister himself, when the riots started on 3rd of May, and they were not clear in which direction it is going. So if you look at today, they do not understand. The simple thing is, people in the Home Ministry do not understand, and they think it's like something like, Delhi, you have riots in the eastern part of Delhi, it's like Gujarat. Look, Northeast is not same as what you call the mainland India. It has its own, peculiarities, and people in Delhi, including the officials in the Ministry of Home Affairs, they do not understand, and that's what I said in the beginning. The Nagas have not even joined the fray. So you are trying to resolve with the Nagas without taking into account the fact that, on 25th July 1997, the ceasefire agreement was declared with the NSCNI, and till today, after 25 years, you could not find a solution. And you think that you have the capacity in the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Prime Minister that you will resolve the issue with the Meites, you will resolve with the Nagas, and you will resolve with the Kukis together. And that's what Mr. Akamisha is supposed to achieve for you in this period when the riots are continuing. I don't think so. I don't think they have a clarity on even what they want to achieve. They are only hoping one thing: we will talk to everybody, the situation will die down. It is not going to die down because of the fact that there are elements which are active from both communities, and it is not something which the state government or the central government are not aware of it. If you have your intelligence agencies, you get your inputs very well, who is going to do what. It's not something that state doesn't have. It's not completely lost territory. The government is very much control of the situation. They know who is going to do what, but the actors have their own narrative, and they are beyond the control of the party or the police or the agencies, but they know exactly what.
Geeta Rani, I think that's a very important point Suhasji has spoken about. It's that the community having exercising great power of the levers of the state. The MLAs cannot come here. NSG can be deployed, army can be deployed. There are multiple paramilitary which can be deployed to give security, but it's just that the MLAs will not budge.
See, there's also one angle, if I may just...
Absolutely, Brijesh. Please go ahead.
See, there's also one angle that, you have to also understand that those MLAs are an elected representative. I think they are also reflecting the sentiment on the ground. I think the same stands true for Maiti MLAs as well. That, that if the society per se, like suppose if I'm a Maiti, and I would not want this to happen, my MLAs beyond a point can't reflect or can't ignore my demand. So that is also there's also a massive pressure on the MLAs also that you cannot deviate from the stated objective.
I'm giving you a very long example. It's like that Mandal movement of 1990 where political parties cracked up on the community lines.
Because you have to win in order to remain a relevant politician. If you can't, then you are finished as a politician. And this is the reason why I honestly don't think that security is something which the state government can provide. You don't have to go to NSG and Indian Army for that matter. I mean, security is something which the state government can easily provide. But I seriously doubt that the Kuki MLAs would also want to be seen as someone who would define the sentiments of the people down on the ground.
Geeta Rani,
I stand to be corrected. But this is what my understanding of the situation.
You have your point of view. Geeta Rani, what is leading to such hardening of the community sentiments? It's been more than 140 days now. The community sentiments don't seem to be softening up.
See, Kartikeya, I think on the ground level, people are tired of the war situation going on, and they are ready for talks and bringing about peace. But of course, the steps has to be taken, one at a time, like disarming the civilians and the militants. That has to be done. And regarding the 10 Kuki MLAs not attending, Brijesh is perfectly right, because they cannot go against the wish of the community. They are actually representing what the Kuki community wants, and that is what I said, like separate administration. If their demand is that, their attending the assembly session will never happen. Exactly on May 3rd, the violence started, and May 12th they gave a memorandum press release saying that they want separate administration. So their wishes, their stand is always in tandem with what the Kuki community, or rather the militants and the ITLF, what their demand, and the Kuki MLAs, 10 of them. It's totally in line. So their stand will always be similar, and their attending or not attending will be depending on their collective wish.
Isn't it a reflection on the leadership, Geeta Rani ji? In such situation, Chief Minister is supposed to play sort of a different role.
See, I don't think, right now, in spite of being the same party, the Chief Minister and the 7 BJP MLAs of the Kuki communities are, in any way on a similar path. It's totally, the objectives are totally different now. It's divided on community and, identity politics line is very deeply divided. So these 10 MLAs, they are together in spite of different parties, and they are not going to budge from this 10 of separate administration right now.
They are not going to budge. Ms. Sauji, your thoughts on it? Because when I feel, it just tells me this shows the limit of ethnic politics. Actually, Manipur is a classic example of ethnic politics, and that is why the constitutional guarantees are the most important thing. Our constitution, our sense and idea of citizenship. Because if this is the potential of an ethnic politics, then this is the reality of the ethnic politics which has happened in Manipur. This is what you get if you do ethnic politics. Mr. Misao.
Yes, Kartikeya, I feel extremely sad to see my beautiful Manipur reeling under this.
Today you are feeling. कुछ आप sorry to use the word. आज आप बहुत अलग तरीके से बात कर रहे हो. Looking slightly down. This is not the same Misao I am used to speaking.
Yeah.
Huh?
I'm saying I'm
you sound very
extremely
different
sad to
today.
see. I'm extremely sad to see my beautiful Manipur reeling under this situation, because with my various capacity, I've been working with young people under the campaign called Samjoto Express, like making friendship beyond borders, where the Kuki young boys will make friendship with the Meitei young boys and the Kuki girls. The same way will make friendship with the Naga, because the polarization on ethnicity line is very high, and I think in the world, Manipur could be one of the only state where polarization on ethnicity line is extremely high. So seeing that, because I've been sensing, I was afraid that Manipur will come to this situation one day unless we could catch these young people. And we also, I also run this Samvidhan Life, where what we are saying is you studied fundamental rights and fundamental duties in your schools. It's not only to remember and memorize, but you have to live upon these fundamental duties. But today, in spite of the effort and the toil that we
Okay.
get, the CM, the Manipur CM, whom we consider one of the chief architect or engineer of
That's your
all
view,
these divides.
that is your view,
Manipur.
He's not here
Yeah.
to defend himself. So,
No,
that is
I'll
your
come.
view.
Yeah, I'll come
News 9 has
because
nothing to do with it. That's your view, Mr. Misao.
because I can provide you lots of evidence and proof by saying
okay,
that. Now,
perfectly
now
okay.
coming to my point.
That is your
yeah,
view,
my
not News
co-
9 view.
Yeah, that's my view. I'm not saying that's News 9's view. Yeah, clearly that's my view. Now, coming to the Cookie 10 MLAs, I will tell you very honestly, we don't want another Wunjagin among our 10 MLAs. Our Honorable MLA Wunjagin Wate, after attending a meeting with Honorable Chief Minister of Manipur, he was attacked by the mob. Today, none of the attackers. These incidents happens in broad daylight, even in the heart of the cities, and there are lots of cameras, CCTVs, and till
Okay.
today, no arrest has been made. Now, we don't want another that kind of incidents
Okay.
that to happen to our MLA. At the same time, we don't want to live in. Actually,
Okay.
we want to live in democracy. Honestly saying, we want to live in democracy,
Okay,
but
there's a
we
bit
don't want to live
news
under
coming in, Mr. Misao.
mobocracy.
Mr. Misao, there's a bit of a
Because
breaking news
Manipur
coming in.
is
Let me
now
just show.
under mobocracy, not under democracy.
Okay, fair enough. That's your word. Mobocracy is there. There's a democracy. Your words. There's a bit of a breaking news coming. These are the weapons which have been recovered from Chura Chandpur. Now, I'm not going to make fun of it, but the fact of the matter, Suhasji, is that this is not even the tip of the iceberg. This is the grain of the iceberg. I mean to say, thousands of the weapons have been looted and this comes back. I mean to say, you have guns that are being looted which can fire for 3 kilometers and this comes back.
Well, I think, I mean, there
This
have been
comes
a
back.
series of this.
You remember you
Yeah,
were
but
in my show. We showed you that weapon,
Yes,
which can fire
yes,
for, which has a firing distance strength of 4 kilometers, 3 kilometers, and this is what comes back.
That's about 500 rounds per minute or something like.
Yes, it can fire, I think, 300 to 400 rounds per minute, and it's a water cooled gun which they had taken away.
See, if you look at the entire chain of events in Manipur, it's a tragedy which was unfolding, on which nobody had acted upon. And I think the looting or handing over of the arms was one of the instances. And in fact, in one particular incident, the CBI officials had gone to, conduct the investigation with respect to the weapons looted, and they could not go, and so the investigation never had started. So that's one aspect of the what's the problem. The second aspect of the problem, which was from the origin itself, was as I had said many times, that we remain a mute witness, fail to learn anything when we decided, or government of India decided, to transfer civilian populations from the hills to the valley, from the valley to the hills. And if you recover this kind of weapons at this point of time, I don't think this recovery in any manner is going to evoke any confidence. So it looks like a joke at this point of time. If you look at the number of weapons, lost, 4,000 to 6,000 weapons lost, 500,000 to 600,000 ammunitions lost.
So
If
Haji,
you
even
recover,
today there are reports of wire agencies that the weapons in the valley were snatched away from the police. It has been reported.
so that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you look at the way the state had acted or not acted and allowed this
In which state you
situation,
have the audacity to attack the police to snatch away the weapons? That's the last thing you do, because you know that you'll be shot if you do something like that.
no, not necessarily, because if you look at the way the civilian vigilante groups verifying the identity cards of the security forces, and security forces in certain situations even letting up the wanted people, I mean, who were responsible for various kind of terrorist activities as per the Ministry of Home Affairs. These activities cannot continue without some kind of political sanction at the highest level. I do not think the security forces, which are under the Ministry of Defense or which are under the Ministry of Home Affairs, will be acting in this manner without the sanction of the Home Ministry. So the way you look at so that's what I'm saying. The Home Ministry and the Defense Ministry, they have given basically given some sort of clear instruction.
So Haji,
that,
Gitarani ji, can you answer? I'm getting this on my mobile. Now I'm taking questions which are people putting up. A lot of people are saying that when police cannot guard their weapons, अगर अपने आप अपने weapons की रक्षा नहीं कर सकते तो आप Kuki-Zo MLAs को सुरक्षा क्या देंगे? A lot of people are writing this. I want you to answer that, ma'am.
See, that question is irrelevant because the situation at that time when the weapons were looted was different. And providing security to the MLAs is will be a joint effort of the central forces and the state forces, obviously. That should not be a big issue. And regarding this snatching of arms, the situation at that time, which I got from the ground, from the people, was like a war-like situation. They believed that the Sioux militants, the Kuki militants were coming down from the hill, and the houses were burned in the hill districts, and people were drove down, and those people, those villagers staying near the foothills, their houses were burned. So those villagers, they were desperate to safeguard the boundary of their villages. It was like a warlike situation, as I mentioned. So at that time, it was like a complete failure of law and order situation. Mob had taken control. At that time, this looting of the arms and ammunition happened both in the valley and in the hills.
But the weapons have not come back, ma'am.
Yes, only few have come back, and as you said, it's these numbers are nothing what they have been recovered. But I would like to hope that this is the beginning, and both central and state forces, they should combine and then do a combing operation each house and recover both from the plain and the both from valley and the hill areas. So only after that happened, only after the arms have come back, then real peace will return. Otherwise, the peace right now is manufactured. That's why anytime violence can erupt. So all these arms, that should be the first priority before even starting to think about talking about peace, or people initiated talks about peace. Those arms have to be brought back. That's unquestionable.
Okay, Mr. Misao, you wanted to speak. You wanted to say something. You raised your hand.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was also on the same page with Gitarani when she said few miscreants. That's the same things I was also saying when all the local media interviewed me and asked me about my opinion on the situation of Manipur. I said the entire Meitei communities are not bad people, and the entire Kuki communities are not bad people. But I was sending out a strong message to the entire population saying that just because of few miscreants, we should not let our state burn. And I was also telling the people of Manipur that we should not fall prey to the external forces they are playing to divide us. Now, unfortunately, my heart feels like crying because at some point of time, I feel it's all because of some miscreant. But now looking at there are less kind of people who speak like Gitarani, and I have seen all the intellectuals, most of the intellectuals being radicalized. starting from professor from leading universities, the way how they talk, the way how they speak, and the way how they seize on our community, in spite of the kind of services or contribution that Kuki community had made to Manipur, starting from 1825 to 26, when Maharaja Gambhir Singh, the Kuki helped them to regain Manipur after 7-year devastation. And in 1857, Maharaja Chandrakirti was helped by the Kuki chief from the Awa land, that we call it Burmese War. At the same time, 1992 to 97, the Kukis have shed their bloods and lost their life to protect the Manipur integrity from those elements who are trying to disintegrate Manipur. Now, in spite of all those things, as I was saying, Manipur peoples are highly intellectual, and these highly intellectual peoples, they are purposefully turning blind eyes to the history, the facts and figures, and now when they just come up and saying that Kukis are illegal immigrant narco-terrorists, what would they feel if I say Meiteis are all rapists? Because that's what they are doing to our sisters. But the Kukis, we never call them Meiteis are rapists or Meiteis are immoral communities, just because of those miscreants, and just because of some few people who might be cultivating poppy or might be in drugs business. You cannot term the entire community as narco-terrorists. So such kind of narrative, rather than, now if they are really in that right sense, I think they should also work towards protecting the integrity of Manipur. Now, unfortunately, we have reached a point of no return. When we are saying Tobi Man Khangdaba, that's when you don't acknowledge our services to Manipur, then we have nothing to say then to be separated from Manipur and live as a good neighbors.
सुहास जी, when he says points of no return, आप गए कहाँ हैं? आप हैं तो मणिपुर में ही ना, हैं तो उसी की टेरिटोरियल इंटेग्रिटी में, बाउंड्री में ही तो है ना सुहास जी?
No, absolutely. I think we have to remember one thing. The moment we say these are the tasks of few miscreants, we are really undermining the problem. When the entire edifice of the state structure has collapsed to the point that the state no longer exists, that you can't say that these are the handiwork of some miscreants, etc. Miscreants cannot load 5,000 to 6,000 arms. Miscreants cannot load 500,000 to 600,000 ammunitions. I think in India, whenever we face this situation, we always say these are the fringe element, they are not the mainstream, and etc. Please remember, the people whom you are describing from both sides as miscreants, they are not miscreants. They are part of the mainstream. They are part of the political structure of both the communities, whether it's connected with the party or not. And that is why these miscreants are still able to, carry out the activities which determines the narrative. So let's not say, these are miscreants and etc. If a genuine process of establishing accountability starts, don't you think the heads of so many people, many of whom we know from all sides, actually will roll? And if there is a genuine inquiry as to the loss of the arms, how many people will be prosecuted? So many arms have been looted. Forget about the killing, rape, and etc. The arms being looted from the security forces, and the security forces themselves failing to perform the official task. So if you start taking the action as per the law, you would realize that they are not the miscreants and they are not the minority groups. They are the majority who have shaped the narrative and who are still strong. And because they are very powerful, that's why neither the Home Minister, neither Biren Singh or anybody else can take action. Even CBI cannot go. So you have a situation whom you are calling miscreants. They are not miscreants. They are the mainstreams and they will decide. And unfortunately, if we say that,
saying that the mainstream is creating the problem, so you are saying that the mainstream is creating the problem in Manipur. If that is my takeaway, the mainstream actors, mainstream civil society actors, mainstream political actors, you are saying it is not an act of periphery. It is the mainstream which is
That's what I'm saying. They are not peripheral or fringe elements. You cannot have fringe element looting so many arms, so many weapons, and burning down so many houses. 6,000 FIRs. So what are you talking about? And look at the number of population in the state, 3 million. And now look at the number of people who have displaced.
Okay.
So we might say that they are not political actors. Everybody knows who are these people. Please don't tell me that from both communities we do not know who are these people who have engaged in violence.
Okay.
I mean, we know, everybody knows it. We might say them, term them as miscreants to undermine or to say or to create a sense that for
there is one important bite which has come, that the Kotu ITLF apprises Manipur governor to defer assembly session, says it will not allow 10 Kuki-Zo MLAs to attend the assembly session. Now the copy says, representing the voice of the tribal Kuki-Zo, the Committee on the Tribal Unity, Sadar Hills, Kangpokpi and Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum apprised the governor of Manipur of the current turmoil in the state and urged to defer the 4th session of the 12th Manipur Legislative Assembly summoned to be held on August 29. The two tribal Kuki-Zo bodies submitted a joint memorandum to the governor of Manipur through the Deputy Commissioner Kangpokpi and to have a sympathetic look at the present situation. Earlier, Kotu and ITLF, considering the alleged complete breakdown of law and order and the unconducive situation for the Kuki-Zo MLAs, the two tribal Kuki-Zo bodies urged the governor for a protracted action. Now, the point is, you have a separate force saying that even the meeting should not take place, but the meeting will take place. Meeting should take place. The assembly should meet for longer period of time. And I hope the assembly not only works, but works out for longer period of time, and there should be some sort of a assurance given that the assembly will be meeting. But I completely agree with the panelists that more needs to be done to get these guns back. More needs to be done to get the guns back so that the normal life can be restored and all eyes will be on the Manipur session. But yes, these guns are simply not even the tip of the iceberg. They are not even the tip of the iceberg. It is nothing what has gone out. It is nothing in context of heavy machinery which has been moved out. This is simply nothing. It's a good effort by our security forces, but nothing. But all eyes are set what happens tomorrow in Imphal.
ChatGPT. It can generate codes and human-like responses through text, write stories, and do a lot more.
I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists, producers, video editors, camera crew. But does a newsroom really need them today?
All of us have to think about unique and distinctive value addition that cannot be automated or repeated or replaced by a machine.
ChatGPT may kill many companies.
A human has to be in the loop with an ability to control this.